And here's the key on what I'm about to say. Regardless of whether we're at a top where the bubble's going to burst or whether we're at the bottom, if you buy and hold in 25 years, it doesn't matter. You're still a genius, right? Anybody that bought a house 25 years ago is loving life right now. Anybody that bought a bunch of houses 25 years ago is really loving life right now. And so I look at it right before 2008, I bought the house that I'm in now. We're now building a house. I'm going to keep this house. But here's the thing. I bought this house for $690, right? It dropped down into the low 500s. The townhouse I sold for $430. It dropped into the low 300s. And I thought, man, I was great for selling the one house and stupid for buying this house. Well, here's the thing. Just last year alone, I sold another townhouse in that community in the fives, right? So after the biggest crash in a generation, we're now selling for over 6 figures more than what I sold that last house for. My house that I bought for $690, it just appraised because we were upping a HELOC. It just appraised for over 900 right now after I bought at the top of the market. And it's almost paid off because I've just been paying it down over all of these years that I've lived here, right? So you're a genius if you hold on to properties.
Chris, thank you for joining me for our Thought Leader Spotlight series. I'm your host, Matt Camp, head of partnerships for DealMachine. And on these, we really like to shine a spotlights on industry experts like yourself to really hear your inspiring stories and educate our audience on the lessons that you learned over the years. So today, really excited to welcome on Chris Craddock. I know you're a nationally certified life coach in leadership, and you're a top real estate investor closing 30 to 65 deals per month. You host the Uncommon Real Estate podcast. You have multiple successful businesses in the Washington, D.C. area, and you're a family man too. I know you've got 6 kids and been married for 21 years, it sounds like. So you've got the real estate down, you've got the family life down. Really excited to have you on, man.
Well, thanks, brother. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, of course. And again, I know you've got a ton of great stuff at chriscraddock.com. You've got Instagram going on. You've got TikTok going on. So highly recommend, the audience looking you up on a variety of channels, and you put out great stuff. So, again, excited to have you on today.
Yeah. Excited to get into it, bro. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Yeah. So to kind of begin with too, I mean, I know I talked a little bit about your background there. But could you maybe talk about, your life is on how you got into real estate, and then maybe even some of those most pivotal decisions you made along the way that really got you to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I graduated college in 2000, went on staff at an organization called Young Life. I loved Young Life. It was amazing. But, when you're making $25,000 a year, it's hard to live in the DC area on that. And so 2003, when my wife got pregnant, our goal was that she'd stay home and raise the family. And so I was like, man, I got to figure out how to make some money because 25 grand a year is not going to put food on the table. And so I ended up going to the library and checking out every book on flipping houses that they had. And, I found 21 books. I started reading through all of them as fast as I could. And I'll tell you, like a madman, went out. I look back at how little I knew, just started knocking on doors of properties that were distressed. And I always say, massive imperfect action trumps perfect inaction any day of the week. And so, I knocked on doors, and somehow in the next 4 months, I made 12 times what I made in a year. And here's the funny thing. I'd forgotten about this until somebody asked me about the first deal I did. I knocked on this door of this guy, and he comes out, and I see this girl sitting on a couch. They were watching TV, and it was like a townhouse style condo, right? It's a condo community, but like townhouse style. And he comes there, and I was like, hey, I saw your house is up for foreclosure. Just want to see if you'd be looking to sell. And he looks like really nervous, steps out, closes the door. And he's like, listen, I want to sell the house, but she doesn't know about this. So I'm gonna, can I give you my phone number? Will you call me in a couple hours after she leaves, and I'll tell you about it? And so calls but then I was like, he wants to sell, and I knew it was a deal, but I didn't know what to do. I didn't have a contract. I didn't have anything. And so I just called a real estate agent, and I said, hey, I think this is a deal, but can you make sure it's a deal? And also, can you write up the contract? And I don't even know how to make this work. I didn't know what a title company was or anything. And so I was just like, I'll split the deal with you. Just make it work, which was, I accidentally fell into a JV relationship on my first deal. And so anyway, all of that, I made a bunch of money. I kept doing ministry. as I had more kids, the money ran out and I started flipping again. And I'd gone back to school. I'd gotten a doctorate in leadership. And so I read Gary Keller's book about the millionaire real estate agent and started building out a big retail team. And then figured out a way to combine the retail and the investment side. And I guess that started, the retail team started December 2014. This year, we're going to sell right around 600 houses, both on and off market. I've got 11 streams of income, a number of them 7-figure businesses. And I love what I do. It's awesome. It's fun and it's exciting, and we get to go big.
Love it, man. Yeah, I mean, you can tell with your passion, like you clearly love what you do and have had a heck of a journey to get there. So, yeah, can you tell me, I mean, I know you said, hey, you just went out there and started knocking on doors. Clearly you've got a knack for that a little bit there. So can you kind of break down on the sales side, how you go about doing that? You know, what the conversations are you have with potential motivated sellers, how you identified those leads. Would love to hear your process there.
Yeah, sure. So the first thing I'll say is this, and it's a little off topic, but on topic. I just finished reading or listening to a book this morning called Scaling Up, which I think a lot of people have heard of. And at the very end, he talks about the 2 things that identify top performers. And I always say there's 2 things to win in real estate: activity and skill. And it was just really interesting because the way he said it was a little bit, it just was better than the way I say it, right? And what he said was, top performers have an insatiable appetite for learning. And so anybody listening to this obviously is a learner, right? You're here, you're trying to grow, you're trying to get better. And they also have a bias towards action, right? And so what I think the problem with most people is that they think too much. Maybe they're just too smart. And so they outthink themselves and they sit there and think about stuff and don't actually do anything, right? And so that's where we're winners. Just get out there and do it, right? You just do it and do it. And if you do it wrong, you figure it out on the way, right? And it's scary, I know. But for me, I've got a bias towards action. And I know I didn't do it right because I didn't know all the stuff that I was doing, but somehow I won there. So what I did at the time was, I was reading these books and they said, look for people that are in distress. So I thought to myself, who's in distress? People that have a foreclosure coming. And so I was like, how do I find foreclosures? And in the books, they say the newspapers have them because it was before the internet, right? When I first started. So I went to the library again and got all the newspapers that they had on the rack. And I went to the back where they had the trustee sales. And I literally, I mean, it was before smartphones, so I couldn't just take pictures of them. I literally had a little, journal, not a journal, but kind of, and I still have them, right? These papers, you know, I had a legal pad that I just carried with me, and I just wrote down the names and address and the foreclosure date of everything. And then I looked up where all these houses were, and I just started driving around and knocking on their doors, asking them if they wanted to sell. Just said, hey, I know you have a foreclosure date. You know, would you be interested in selling your house? I mean, it was not a hard script. And a lot of people said yes. And that's how we won. So that was pretty much the deal. Now it's changed a little bit. If there's a foreclosure date, most of the time they've already been through 1,000 investors and they're negative equity. They're short sales these days. Even in this market, there's short sales to be found. But at the time when I first figured it out, that's how I did it.
Yeah. I love the hustle and grind there for that, you had there, just diving right in. I mean, if you were to restart that today, just considering the current market conditions and all that, how would you, advise newbies now of like getting how to get into it, where to find that first deal?
Well, DealMachine's an awesome thing, right? Shameless plug, right? Bam! Shameless plug.
Perfect.
So yeah, no, I mean, that's an easy way, right? You just, like driving for dollars is a simple way. People going for auction, although there's not, like with the moratoriums around, there's less of that. But you data stack, you figure out who is likely to sell. And then you can go knock on doors of people. You can, the cool thing is with skip tracing and all the other stuff that you can do, you can just get on and just get on the phone. I mean, literally right here, if you're watching this, I've got my headset. When I first started in residential real estate, everybody would give me a hard time. They literally, all the people in the residential office would make fun of me because everybody else, they'd go like make a couple calls and then go talk and hang out and get lunch and all the other stuff. And I literally just wandered around. And as you can tell, if you're watching this, I'm moving a lot because I have a hard time thinking if I'm sitting still. So I just wander around the hallways of the office with my headset on like this, boom. And I'm just talking all day from beginning till end. I'm smiling and dialing, making calls, talking to people. And I'll tell you, for like real estate agents, if you're a real estate agent, you're not going to sell houses by talking to other real estate agents, right? If they want to sell a house, they're not going to call you to sell their house for them, right? If you're an investor, you're not going to sell more houses by talking to other investors. Now, don't get me wrong. You need to mastermind, you need to level up, you need to skill up, you need to be around other people. But I'll tell you, so many people use education as a way to procrastinate, as a way to not work. Go out and work, talk to people. My buddy, Brent Daniels, I mean, literally his whole program is TTP, talk to people, right? It's just so on the nose. Like that is it, right? Like go just talk to people. And then if you skill up a little bit and you get rid of the people that are less likely to sell, and you data stack and get people that have high equity, people that are behind on payments, people that are absentee landlords, people that are just data tells us are higher likelihood to sell. And then all day long, you just talk to those people. Even if you're the most terrible salesperson in the world, if you talk to 1,000 people a day, I promise you're going to outperform the people that are great salespeople that only talk to 5 or 10 people a day. And the last thing I'm going to say is this, the driving for dollars thing. And I have so many people that I've talked to over the years that have said, oh, driving for dollars doesn't work. It doesn't work. I tried it. And I said, okay, tell me about it. Tell me more, right? Which is always the question. If you're in sales, you always say the question, tell me more. And so I said, tell me more. And they're like, I made all these phone calls. I talked to all these people and nobody's willing to sell. It doesn't work. And I said, how many people did you call? And they're like, I had 25 people on my list. I was like, okay, 25 people. How many of those 25 did you talk to? I talked to probably like 8 or 10 people and none of them were willing to sell. I was like, okay, so you talked to 8 or 10 people. I was like, if it was that easy, everybody would do it, right? You need to be just talking to people, right? Like talk to 150 people. Don't say it doesn't work until you've talked to 500 people. And then you can tell me it's not working, but you can't tell me it's not working when you just talk to a couple people. Like literally, if everybody could just make talk to 8 people and make hundreds of thousands of dollars, like everybody'd be sitting on a beach in Tahiti somewhere, right?
Right. Yeah. And we're definitely a big fan of Brent's over here too. So I love the shout out there. But yeah, but the 8 to 10, phone calls for 25 leads, that's a heck of a ratio too. That'd be, I'd take that all day. But I think, you always do a great job, whenever I chat with you or even on social and whatnot, talking about the, how you see the market evolving and, real estate trends and all that too. And I do see that with newbies as well, as that can be an easy, like you said, you're educating yourself. You can use that to procrastinate. You can also use the market as a reason to procrastinate too. Can you maybe talk about what you see coming when it comes to the market? And then also, when is the right time for people to get into the market?
Yeah. So this is one of the big things I talk about all over social media. I'm always talking about this and I love it because all the trolls come out to play, right? Like they love hating on me for saying that the market, I believe the market's going to be strong for the next, at least the next 12 months. So a couple things here. First of all, if you're flipping or wholesaling, any of that stuff, it's great. That's transaction-based business, but that's not real wealth. Over time, you need to buy and hold, right? So that's the big key there. And here's the key on what I'm about to say. Regardless of whether we're at a top where the bubble's going to burst or whether we're at the bottom, if you buy and hold in 25 years, it doesn't matter. You're still a genius, right? Anybody that bought a house 25 years ago is loving life right now. Anybody that bought a bunch of houses 25 years ago is really loving life right now. And so I look at it right before 2008, I bought the house that I'm in now. We're now building a house. I'm going to keep this house. But here's the thing. I bought this house for $690, right? It dropped down into the low 500s. The townhouse I sold for $430. It dropped into the low 300s. And I thought, man, I was great for selling the one house and stupid for buying this house. Well, here's the thing. Just last year alone, I sold another townhouse in that community in the fives, right? So after the biggest crash in a generation, we're now selling for over 6 figures more than what I sold that last house for. My house that I bought for 690, it just appraised, because we were upping a HELOC, it just appraised for over 900 right now after I bought at the top of the market. And it's almost paid off because I've just been paying it down over all of these years that I've lived here, right? So you're a genius if you hold on to properties. So that's the number one, is who cares as long as you hold it. I remember Gary Keller once said to me, or said to a small group of us that he was mentoring, which was one of the greatest pleasures of my life, being personally mentored by Gary. But he said the difference between the geniuses and the idiots in real estate is how long you hold it, right? So that's the key there. Now, what's happening over the next 12 months? Here's the deal. Inflation is going up like crazy, right? We're seeing about a 6% inflation rate. So 6 cents on every dollar you keep in the bank and don't do anything with will disappear over the next year, right? Your dollar is a melting ice cube. You want to put your money into circulation, right? So the way that people hedge against inflation is they buy hard assets, gold, silver, even cryptocurrency right now. People are buying that because, it's not getting debased. And real estate, right? So a lot of people are going into real estate. So there's an upward pressure in real estate because it's a hedge against inflation, right? I buy a property and my monthly mortgage payment is, let's say it's $2,500 a month. Inflation goes up, my payment stays the same, right? So it's a hedge against inflation. Number two, builders have only been building about 1 million houses a year nationwide, whereas before the crash, they were building about 5 million houses a year for decades. So they built a lot less houses. So there's just less housing available. And we know when there's scarcity, prices go up, right? So we're seeing scarcity there. Three, we're seeing that a lot of people that have moved from one house to their move up house, interest rates are so low, they don't have to sell the old house like they did before. It used to be everybody had to sell their old house. Now lots of people are holding on to that as rentals and as a way to build wealth. Well, when that happens, it means less houses are hitting the market, which again creates scarcity, which creates upward pressure. So we're seeing, man, I'm giving such a mouthful on this. I'm sorry. Like this is one of my favorite topics to talk about. We're just seeing that the market is in a really, really solid place. Now, who knows what our government's going to do? Heck, I loved Ronald Reagan's quotes. The scariest words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." So who knows what the government's going to do over the next 12 months with all the COVID stuff going on? Are they going to print more dollars? Are they going to do literally the bottleneck of all the ships coming in and the supply chain issues? Who knows what's going to happen there and how that's going to derail stuff. But what we have seen is all of the other economic indicators are pointing to a healthy real estate economy over the next 12 months.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal breakdown. One thing you briefly mentioned there is your mentorship with Gary. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit around, that mentorship, and then how mentors have played a role in your life, and how people can find that mentor as well?
Yeah. So for me, I was actually in a mastermind, and we did a life map, right? That was part of the thing we had to do. And as I looked, every time I leveled up massively in my life, it always coincided with a new relationship that was brought into my life. So that was really important. And even right here, so I'm a member of eXp Realty right now, which I moved from KW to eXp. But right here, I've got these bracelets because one of the first things that I decided when I joined Keller Williams and I wanted to grow as an agent, one of the first things I decided was Gary Keller, the top 100 agents in all of Keller Williams, there's almost 200,000 agents, get to be personally mentored by Gary. So I had a goal. I'm like, I want to be in that group. And so it took me, I think it was like 3.5 years from when we started our team to get into that group of the top 100. And it was just really, really a powerful thing, being able to hear how he thinks and, be in the same room with a billionaire. There are a number of things that he said. I still remember one of the things that he said that stuck with me more than anything else. There were a bunch of us in a room with him, and he was sitting in front of everybody. He says, "Hey, you want to know why I'm sitting up here and you guys are sitting down there?" And I'm like, man, it's such an audacious statement, but he's a billionaire, so he can say what he wants. And so I'm like, oh, I'm going to listen, And so he's like, because I'll kick all of your butts at hiring, right? So I thought that was really interesting, was the people that make it, the bigger you make it, the more important it is to bring high talent and high level people in your life around you. So going back to mentorship, how do you find good mentors? I'm in a ton of different Facebook groups, and I just see people all the time saying, "Hey, I'm looking for a mentor." And like all of the piranhas, see chum in the water when they say, they're like, "I'll mentor you, I'll mentor you." And 9 times out of 10, it's like, people that aren't doing many deals that are offering to mentor people, right? Now, sorry if I offended you and you are doing a lot of deals and you've offered to mentor people, maybe I'm wrong there. But what I just said is, my recommendation to everybody is go listen to podcasts, listen to people that you respect, because if you take their advice, you get their life, right? That's the key there. Would you trade their business life for your business life? Would you trade their personal life for your personal life? Because if you listen to them, if you take their advice, you're going to get their life, right? Because that's what their system is created to give them. And so I just found people that I like their vibe, right? I'm like, man, I think this person is amazing. This person is really cool. And I just started reaching out to people, right? And so I could not believe how many people, like these people making millions of dollars a year, would actually return my calls, return my messages, and just spend time with me. And that's the other thing is, don't trust what most people say. A lot of people, it's smoke and mirrors. They say, "Oh, I'm making all this money," and they'll talk about the top line dollars they're making. Maybe they're making millions of dollars a year, but how much are they keeping? What's their bottom line? Right. So that's the other thing is, a lot of people, they spend a fortune to have these businesses that are all smoke and mirrors, but don't believe them. Make sure you dig in, because I've had a lot of people where I called them and they were telling me all the money I needed to spend, all these things I need to do. And then you find out they had these like $5-6 million businesses, but they kept like 100,000 a year. And you're like, that's a terrible business. I don't want that.
Yeah. I mean, that's great inspiration. I love, you being able to call back and even just, give people a little bit of a blueprint, saying like, hey, if you listen to others, they're giving you the processes and playbook that have worked for their lives. So, I mean, that right there is a great thing to leave with. But, one last thing I'll say is a promise that I made, and at some point I'll probably have to change this because I am starting to get blown up a little bit more on this, is, every DM, if anybody sends me a DM on Instagram, I personally respond. I don't have an assistant do it. I personally respond. And the reason I'm doing that right now, even though I'm starting to get blown up a little more than I can really handle right now, is because so many people were so generous with me that I want to be able to do that with other people and help people create a map for what we're doing. And with that said, I'd love to talk briefly about REI Revive, what we're doing with that, if you're all right with that. Yeah, that's what I was going to tee you up for next. I know, when we've talked in the past, you have a really interesting model with REI Revive. So can you talk about, everything you got going on there?
Yeah, absolutely. So here's the deal. As soon as I say what this is, everybody's like, yeah, that sounds great. And then everybody's like, I can figure this out on my own. And you probably can. So the idea behind it is, every time the phone rings, you should get paid, right? So if you're reaching out and bringing in 20, let's say you've called 20 people, or 20 people have responded to your marketing. They say, I want to sell in the next 6 months. Of those 20 people, probably only 4 of them are going to want to sell at any sort of a discount. Everybody else is going to want retail. And maybe of the 4, you're going to lock up 1, right? So that's kind of the way that we see it. Well, what happens with the other 19? Well, the other 3 are going to go with an investor that's going to pay too much, or maybe they just like them more, whatever. So those other investors are going to get paid there. The other 16 are going to go with some retail agent, and somebody's going to get paid. But all of those 19, somebody's going to get paid, and it's not going to be you, right? So my whole idea is, how can you make it so that every time the phone rings, you can make the most of every lead, right? And so we basically replicated what we've done with our retail business, partnering with investors, so that you can partner with a real estate. If you're an investor, you can partner with a real estate agent and close the deal. Now, everybody, when you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, man, they get the listing, and then I can get paid from that. That makes sense. And I should just try it. I'll go throw it out to an agent, and most people will. And you'll see that it's a lot harder than that, because anybody that wants to talk to an investor has an agent friend who's a brother, a sister, a mom, a brother's uncle who's a hairdresser and a real estate agent, right? And so there's scriptings and processes and everything else. And I guarantee you You can figure it out if you spend a lot of time doing what we did. It took us years to figure this out. But the whole key for us is, how do we grow a business and how do we grow it fast? How do we create speed in the business, right? And so if you can take your marketing, like right now, I've got a guy that he's amazing, right? He's grown his retail or his wholesale business massively, and he is literally living on the referral money that he gets from his Revive leads, his agent leads. He's living on that and reinvesting the rest of his money into this business that is growing massively. So that's what we do with REI Revive. We teach you how to monetize your dead leads, how to make sure that you make the most money on every lead that comes in.
Love it. So if our community want to get involved, what's the best way to get in touch with you there and get involved on that side?
Yeah, well, one, you definitely send me a DM on Instagram. I'd be happy to see if your business is right for that. Two, you can go to chriscraddock.com, ChrisCraddock.com, and click the apply button, and either myself or somebody from the team will look at your business and see if it's right. Basically, if you are bringing in any leads that you're not monetizing 100% of them, you have the ability to make money here. And I'll just tell you, just so you understand the size of the opportunity, the group that my retail team works with literally sends in referral fees between $50,000 and $60,000 a month, every single month, to a wholesaler. So I'm telling you, they were doing this before. They've tried all these different iterations, and they were making maybe 30 grand a year on this. And now we're sending them twice that every single month, $750,000 for deals that they've already paid for. It's life-changing if you get it done. Just think about it. If you can live on the referral pieces and you can take the rest of it and scale your business, I'll tell you, you can get really where you want to be really, really fast.
Yeah, that's exciting, man. I appreciate you teeing that up for our audience as well. And again, I know you've got TikTok, Instagram, a variety of places that you're putting out great content. So highly recommend everyone checking that out. I really, really appreciate your time today. But before we jump off here, and we only have a few minutes, one last question I had is, I know you've got a busy family life, it sounds like, as well, that you're balancing all of this stuff. You've got, multiple businesses that you're running extremely well. You've got the family going on. For people, I know there are a lot of people who listen to us that have their own family at home, and that's part of the reason why they want to get into real estate, is to provide for them, build wealth for the family, spend more time with them. What advice do you have on the parenting side of being able to balance all of that stuff and be able to make that work as a dad?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, it's, looking at what we're doing in business, these are principles we want to pass on to our kids. So I'm so proud of my daughter, my 17-year-old. She actually wrote a book when she was 13, right? We were encouraging her to dream big, right? And so she wrote a book. And the crazy thing is, it just got picked up this year, right, by a publisher. And so we taught her, the stuff that we're thinking, we've got to impart it to our children, right? So they've got to know what we're thinking, what we're doing. We don't separate it, right? We should be integrating everything we do into our family life. And so my daughter, with her book, Chasing Daylight, shameless plug, go order it if you have any 13-year-olds or any kids that read it. But yeah, I'll just tell you, like, she saw what we were doing and she was able to implement it, because we talked about all the principles, right? You work hard, you play hard, right? That's like some family, although she'll tell you, like, the one key rule that we have every time we would leave, I'd say, what's rule number one? And she's like, don't die, right? That's like the big key, right, with our kids. Rule number one, don't die. But as we're implementing the things, work hard, play hard, we're Christian, a Christian family. So, we want to honor the Lord with who we are, and, be the people that we'd be proud of, right? That he'd be proud of. Right. So those are our pieces there. Don't take no for an answer, right? These are all things that we know in business, right? Massive and perfect action, right? Always be leveling up. Always be looking for people that are going to help you think bigger, right? So all of these things are things that our kids, that we're working to impart on our kids. Now, it's imperfect, right? All you got to do is spend 5 minutes with me and you can pick my life apart. Spend 5 minutes with my kids and you can pick their life apart, right? We're imperfect. We've all got feet of clay, but we're doing the best we can to impart the skills and the goals into our kids that we find to be important.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, I again appreciate your time here. This was phenomenal. Definitely inspirational on a personal level and professional level. So I appreciate you coming on.
Brother, this is awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome. And you said, is chriscraddock.com the best place to get in touch with you then, it sounds like?
So chriscraddock.com is the best place to check and see if your business is right for Revive, if you have leads coming in. If you want to reach out to me personally, just DM me on Instagram at Craddock, and I'll answer any of those. But yeah, I'd love to help you and love to help you scale your business. And yeah, and if obviously on Instagram and TikTok, I do a lot of stuff talking about the market and economic indicators, if that's something that interests you.
There we go. Well, thanks again, Chris. Really appreciate the time. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Hey, brother, this is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, to everyone watching, this is Matt Camp with DealMachine, and happy deal finding.